you guys happen to be watching this on YouTube, what is up? Hello. And if you guys are in stream, thank you guys for hanging out. We're going to be getting into the Late Night Wiilly podcast, and our guest tonight is Ploj. Get some claps out for Ploj. Let's go. Let's get it. Ploj going to be coming in. PlojOW. We'll talk a little bit about all that good stuff, but Ploj is a beast. We're going to be getting into it. He is an EU boy, and it's going to be awesome to see. He's been a big pillar in the New World community for a long time, and it's going to be nice to talk to him a little bit. Obviously, doing things from, leading Bonsai, which is one of the, one of the most notorious, infamous, famous, EU squads out there. And we even saw him over there fighting in a tournament, the only tournament I think that ever happened for New World. So pretty cool to see some. Let's get into this, guys. Again, one more round of applause for Ploj. Let's get it going. And Ploj, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself here, man.
Sweet, thank you for having me here. Hello everyone, the Wiilly chat. I love popping in kind of off my streams and checking out, but I'm here. I'm Ploj, PlojOW, for my Twitch. Basically just a full-time New World streamer at this point. We've had our ups and downs, but I play the game. I love the game. Used to be governor of Bonsai, kind of taking a step back in the last couple months, and stepped down from Bonsai to kind of focus on stream and just spending some more time with stream. So that's pretty much me. It's pretty straightforward, but I'm here. I love it. I'm focused on PvP, kind of like wars. Obviously, a lot of crossover with what Wiilly does. Wiilly, kind of, awesome side in the NA, but we get a little bit of EU NA crossover, and there we see a lot of Wiilly coming in, getting a couple casts of our wars. I get a cast a couple of NA wars, etc.
Yeah, man. And it's funny because I remember obviously, even honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, dude, before I even started streaming, obviously I was kind of watching a lot of people, and you were one of those people. I remember popping in and just kind of catching a lot of stuff. And whenever I first saw you and kind of caught you there was whenever you were streaming on the EU side. You were doing some wars, and everybody was telling me in my chat, dude, Ploj, everybody was telling me in my chat, they're like, yo, you gotta check Ploj out. Like, he's over there on the EU squad. He's doing like, you gotta check EU, because I was doing a lot of NA at the time, right? Like, and they're like, yo, have you ever been to EU? Things like that. I'm like, no, I haven't. And they're like, yo, you should check him out. And it was really cool. That's kind of when I started kind of catching you. But obviously I kind of want to ask, whenever we get into this here, I always like asking kind of where your start to New World began. Like, kind of what made you want to play the game? Because I noticed your name is Ploj Overwatch, and look, dude, I catch you playing some Overwatch streams as well too. So look, I know you kind of do it all. So I kind of want to know, like, what was kind of like what drawed you to New World?
I mean, the New World thing, I played the beta, the last closed beta. I think there was a closed beta, open beta, then launch. And I played the last like 2 betas. Honestly, I jumped into the first one. It was banging. I honestly, it did not take long after that.
So you were playing all the way back in the beta too? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And it basically ended up being a situation where, I was kind of streaming at the time a little bit, like on and off. I enjoyed streaming.
Mm-hmm.
I was always like, I would love to like maybe take this more seriously. I saw New World. I've not played an MMO since my last MMO was ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, and that was like 6 years before, so a long time. But I was like, you know what? I think now's my time to get in. Now's my time to go. I love this game. Like, I was leveling to 60 in the betas, all that stuff, and then I was ready for launch. Day one, ready for launch. Been playing ever since.
So kind of you went in like with the mindset of like, dude, I'm gonna go in, bust some ass. Like, was your plan to make a guild in a company, or did like how? No. Yeah. I was like, how did it all go? How did it transpire? Because I know, like, for me, I went in with my brother. Actually, my brother and I were playing, and I was like, he bought me the game, dude. He bought me the game. I wasn't even gonna play New World. He bought me the game, and he's like, yo, you gotta play this game. I play a lot of World of Warcraft. Cool. Yeah, I play a lot of World of Warcraft. So I was like, dude, all right, man, I'll play some New World. So I guess like from your side of things, like, what was it like? What drawed you to New? Like, what was your thing when you first started playing New World? What was your goal?
Okay, so for me, it's quite a lot different than when I ended up. I was all about dueling. Before New World, in the betas, I mean, I got little like YouTube vids of like 1v1 duels, dual builds. When I came into the game, just be launched, I did make a company. I made a company, but I remember it's quite funny. The description of the company is basically like, we don't care about wars. We don't care about large scale. It was like, I want to be like dueling focused and small scale focused, like up to fives. Because in my head, like, going from like a Elder Scrolls Online background, my favorite thing was like, small groups of fives going, open world PvP. And obviously, as the game progressed, open world PvP was incredibly fun as you leveled up, but long term, there was not really a healthy open world PvP. Now, obviously, as that happened, I was still running duel tourneys, doing a lot of dueling stuff on the side. But I end up, my company doesn't really work out because we're on a servers where there was no one could get on the servers. It was all in that time when no one could get on. People couldn't come. It was a small company anyway, so I
And
kind
were
of just
you
went out on
streaming
my
at
own.
this time? Were you streaming at this time here?
On and off. I would stream, but I wasn't like
Yeah, like fully committed. Yeah.
no, yeah, there's no full commitment. I knew I liked streaming, but I wasn't streaming all day every day. But yeah, I mean, I'd try to stream on most days and just kind of play the game. And you'd catch me. I'd be dueling every single day for hours on hours with like my duel partner, putting on duel tourneys. Joined a little company on the side where I was like, you know what, let's try out wars because they said, yeah, come join wars. Wars are pretty fun. Eventually, basically, we had BDB, Backdoor Bandits. They basically took over the server, and we were it was a not a great company,
Yeah.
fun, not great, but it was like the kind of company where we were getting spawn camped, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
I
was
get
like,
you. Yeah, yeah, you have to work. You have to
it's
work camps, wondering, questioning your decisions. You're like, man, is this my future?
yeah, and basically me and one of the other guys were like, you know, the people here are cool, but this isn't what we want. Like, if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna commit to this, we want PvP. If we want wars, we're gonna start a company. We made it. The name was Abris originally, but that was what Bonsai was, and that's how it started.
Wow, that's crazy, man. And I always think that, it's funny how it works out because some of the biggest people that kind of make their way over to the New World scene are people that kind of like, I don't know, like you said, you were organizing duel tournaments and stuff. Like, you just become part of the community. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of one thing that kind of happened with me too. Like, it's like I was shot calling wars and doing my thing. Like, I wasn't streaming, you know what I mean? Like, I was just kind of like, I was kind of known in the community as like this kind of, this big hype shot caller that was like doing wars. And it's like, it just kind of my stream just kind of developed into what it was. But it's like I was doing a lot for the community at the time. You know what I mean, man? Like, it was just kind of one of those like it just kind of fell into place, and like just people just started like, yo, hey, we got to catch this person out. And I think that's kind of what happened. I see from like with you too, like people, you were just a place to be. Like, people like to go to your stream. They're like, yo, dude, you're that you're the EU Bonsai boy. It's really cool to see. And Bonsai, and it's cool, man, because like obviously you can give a little bit more in depth to the EU side. And I know we're gonna be getting into some meat and potatoes because, man, I'm not gonna lie, every single day on stream I still get EU versus NA questions, Ploj. And I don't know how to answer them, dude. Like I never know what the right answer is, dude. And, like, that's why I was so excited to kind of chat with you tonight, because it's like I don't know what the right answer is, man. And I know, and I like, what would you say just initially, like off the EU versus NA, like what is that like? I know you got a lot of opinions.
I'm in front of the wolves here, man.
No, hey, no, screw the wolves, man.
I'm in enemy territory.
No, you're not in enemy territory, bro. I want you to be honest as possible because we need that, dude. I need that honesty. I want you to be like, NA is trash. Like, because the thing is like, I've caught as much. I've caught as much EU wars as I can, and I want to in the future. But like, dude, I need to know, because like you obviously have been in so many EU wars, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of NA. Like, I want your honest to God opinion, dude.
Look, my opinion, obviously, I can only say so much. There are people beat on both sides, and a lot of my opinion is formed by those people that have been on both sides. That have, you've had them on the stream before. There's a lot of well-known people, as well as a bit less now because I'm not running a roster. I'm not running wars. I'm not theory crafting wars. But back then, I'd watch wars. I'd watch NA wars. What are they running? Why are they running this? I'd see stuff and they'd be like, we would never run that. So going off that, basically, ideally around the supple time, like 2-3 months ago, that's kind of like where my head's at for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be pretty confident saying we would get a comfortable win. I don't think it would have been much competition.
Like, even when supple was at its like wars, peak, yeah.
When I watched those wars, it was kind of like when I would watch other server wars on EU. That's how it felt.
I get you, man. You know, one thing, it's funny that you bring up, because one thing that I see a lot of people from EU talk about is actually the builds. And I think you just brought it up as well. Like you said, like, why aren't they running this? Why are they running that? It's like that, I get that a lot even still. You know, people are like, why aren't they running this kind of build? Like what, you know, and I actually remember the PlojOW. At least that's what it was coined. I remember, yeah, you were like pioneering the, was it the IGBB?
IGBB, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I don't know if people realize that, like, you were a big pioneer of the IGBB tech, and you know, kind of at the time, everybody was coming into NA. They're like, bro, like, you know, why aren't you guys running IGBB? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I think I see supple with a few like this and that, but they were right. It was not.
I used to have people come to stream and make fun of EU because of my build, and they'd say, "This is the reason EU's bad. Look what he's running." It literally like they'd say this. I mean, like it was like mid-war, and
Yeah,
it was like a week after BB came out. But if anyone knows, BB was the strongest. Like it's only gone down from then.
yeah.
BB was at its highest peak then. But we were running it, and people were just like, "Yeah, what is he doing? This makes no sense." So much of that, and then obviously over time went down. So yeah, obviously that was like a major part. But you know, there's other things. There's full AOE healers. You tell that to the top EU companies in like 2-3 months ago.
Yeah,
Like the way we see it, I'll tell you how we see NA. I'll tell you exactly how EU sees NA. They see them as scoreboard players. You ask any top EU player, you say, what's the big difference? NA plays with scoreboard. Now, look, I can only say so much. I've not been both, but you know, I look at the numbers. I look at these full AOE run in and die healers. Just pump heal. These are crazy. You see all this, and it's just like, well, kind of sounds right. But hey, that's how I've seen it. I that's how a lot of EU sees it. The top of EU, it's very much NA loves playing for that scoreboard. They love to show off their scoreboard. When we have, you know, we got an EU Discord server. When any NA guy comes in to try, like, you know, stir stuff up, they'll bring up a scoreboard. They always do. They love it. Look at these numbers. Wow.
yeah.
Like, well, yeah. If you're getting that much healing or that many deaths, you're just doing something wrong, man. You're just doing something wrong. Or the whole wall's doing something wrong. It's like that's how it's always looked.
So like from an EU side, it was kind of like always like, oh man, NA is just these kind of like guys who are trying to just go out there and look the best for themselves, not necessarily be like soldiers, you know. And I think we're starting to see a shift in that even now, not only from catching up with the builds, but like trying to have that soldier mentality of like, dude, it's more than just the leaderboards. And I actually even remember whenever I was like, before I got heavily into the shout casting, whenever I was just shout calling wars, dude, I had so many people that were like that. Like I remember I would get on to somebody in my company. I'd be like, look, dude, you're doing this wrong. Like I need you over here. And they're like, oh, but look at the leaderboard. You know, but look at, you know, I'm like, he's like, oh, I'm in the top 5. I'm like, I don't give a shit that you're in the top 5, bro. Like, I don't care if you're number 1. You know, it's like if I say you're at Seagate, bro, I need you at Seagate. You know, like this is how it goes.
When I'm hearing, oh, I'm top bruiser, and then I watch the gameplay, and it's just like inting in to die, to do damage, to int and die and do damage. I'm like, you're not the top bruiser, man. You're just not the top bruiser. It's like,
I don't know how to break this to you. I don't know how to break this to you, bro. But like, dude, it's hard out here. Yeah, and I think it's funny because you know, leading a company, and especially like when you got to do those VOD reviews and you got to talk to the players about that. It's not easy, but it is something to say. Like, you know, it is hard, and I think NA kind of I don't know. I don't know whether it's like, I feel like sometimes NA has a little bit of ego about them. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, well, if I'm at the top, I'll just go somewhere else. You know, sometimes I kind of get those vibes from some players that I've personally played with. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know how EU is, but it does look like EU is fairly structured. Like I feel like you guys have a pretty good structure.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to say. I mean, look, when it comes down to it, you got people at the top always gonna be very individual to like who they are, because you know, you could maybe make like the core of EUs like this, the core of NAs like this. The people at the very top who are like, you know, respected by these top companies who always have a space in the wars, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're the same names. It doesn't matter. They could join any company. They're known as a top bruiser. They're gonna get spaces.
Yeah.
They act how they act. You know, we got people in NA who act a certain way, and it's like it's completely different than or EU, completely different to other EU. So it's really hard to talk about them. But outside of that, I think everything within our structures is, you know, pretty set, pretty plain and simple. I don't think any crazy moves happen. Obviously, we get similar kind of rotations that NA company does. I
Hmm.
do note one big difference between NA and EU, kind of in the past, was merking.
Oh
Merking wasn't
yes,
much of a problem in EU.
really.
And whenever I would get people from NA, they'll tell, oh, there's massive drama, 20 mercs, people are paying for mercs. And it's like, yeah, it's just sometimes you get pissed off, but
So you're saying like EU would
but
merc a
mercs was not
lot?
really an issue.
Like if
You would
like
not
if
merc
some
that much.
oh so like nobody
The
merked
top
much.
wars. In the top wars, no one would merc much. Now,
Oh, okay,
maybe in
okay.
recent times it's a little bit different. Obviously there's a new thing come in. But yeah, like in the past, I heard there was massive drama about merking. I don't know one time within any of the top companies there was ever drama about merking until, obviously recent patches and more recent times. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
no.
that was quite a lot different than NA. Like the idea of paying a big group of mercs to play a war, like, huh? Like, that's a thing? And
Yeah.
then like, yeah, that's like an actual serious thing. And people get
Yeah.
pissed off about it.
Yeah, it was a huge conversation. And in fact, I remember even having to I started becoming at the front of it too, man. Like whenever I was in Pluto at the time, and there was this company called Yeah, and they only had five to 10 players in their whole company, and they would merc out 40 people, and they had like multiple territories. And it got to the point where it was like, like the people in there, they were solid. They were calling these wars, but man, like it started getting to my stream where people were like I would say like, oh yeah, it's a good company, and they're like, well, they're fucking mercs, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like it's like it is true, like you have companies that were merking pretty heavy, but it's like it was still winning. So it's like we have seen, at least on the NA side of things, like a lot of arcs where you would have like a solid foundation of like 10 to 15 people, and then it's like a good chunk of mercs, and it's like
Yeah.
people want to call them like what is it, like a shell company, but it's like they just call them like, oh, these guys need mercs to win. So yeah, like we have definitely been through that. Like EU has never really had to go through that. So EU hasn't really had to go through that before.
Not really. Not with that merch stuff. Now, obviously there's there are times you pull 5 people on from another top company and you got like, oh my, you need help from Para to win. You need help. It's like that, but that's about as far as it goes. I mean, we did have one time where like there was like a two-man group that like merked 48 people,
Yeah.
and they beat another company into territory. But then everyone kind of came together and was like, this is really weird because the other company, they're trying. They put a company together and they put a roster, and then they got beaten by a mix of like Bonsai and Power and like the top people. And it was like weird. So then everyone agreed, okay, we're not merking them. It's done. They took the territory, and then they just insta lost, and that was that.
Yeah. Have you been
Obviously, I can only speak for the servers I've been on, right? Like I've been on a few servers, but EU, yeah, it's a big place. A lot of servers, a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Have you been keeping up with like recent EU? What's popping over there?
Only kind of the server I'm on, Barry, and one other server. Which
I heard Bari is the server right now, though. Like
yeah,
from what I'm hearing.
Barry is the server. Yeah, I mean, I'm not part of Bonsai anymore, or obviously there's been kind of like a remake, not Bonsai itself, but quite a lot of the Bonsai members called 2.0, which I'll merc for all their wars. I'll play in all their wars. But I'll always be on whichever server that is. The way EU's been ever since Dry Tree is the top companies are pretty set. Everyone knows which the top companies are, and they are now always on the same server. That's just it. That server can change. People move. That happens. We've seen on both sides. But at the moment, right now it's Barry. Before it was Faye. Before that it was Dry Tree.
And
before,
Abaton for a second there. Yeah.
It's been jumping all around, but we know what the top companies are.
Yeah.
Barry's here, and I'll always be there because I want to play in those top wars. I want to play in the very hardest wars.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like what competitive players want, dude. And you're obviously like one of those. It's like if I'm gonna be warring, it's like it just doesn't hit the same. You know what I mean? Like if you're just winning against small companies and like it's just easy. It just doesn't hit the same, dude. It just doesn't feel good.
No, not at all. I mean, I think there's also, me as an individual, I wanted to play at that level. I enjoy that, and also I got a lot of mates there. But there's definitely something to be said about, even not playing at the top level, but playing within a company that's fighting other companies of a similar level. I've seen a lot of that. I've seen people having an amazing time who aren't on Barry, and I'm like, yeah, fair play to you. You just want to play this game, have some fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like that's fine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember catching Bonsai, the first war I ever caught a Bonsai, man. It was crazy. And you know, look, I gotta give a shout out to Shinj and some of the others that kind of reached
Mhm.
out and was like, yo, you really need to catch some EU wars, man. And I remember catching Bonsai, and not only were you guys super cool to me, you know, but it was just super cool in general. I mean, you guys looked really good at the time, and I tried to catch a lot more Bonsai wars because it was just a lot of fun. It was really cool to see like what the EU side of things does, because it's kind of like, you know, it's a different view into the world. And I do know, unfortunately, I haven't been able to keep up you know, I was there for a second, but you know, I want to ask you, man, what do you think was like the funnest time for Bonsai? You know, like what was, you know, like what was kind of your moment with Bonsai where it's like, this is the pinnacle of like, this is why I wanted to be a part of this company, you know, man?
Uh,
Like,
I mean, it's hard to say. We went through a lot of like kind of like peaks and troughs as any company does. I think the highest the time it really all came together was actually before we were called Bonsai. It was just before we got named Bonsai when we finally took down BDB, the company that I explained was the reason we started.
yeah,
And that was like the first time we beat them was in Windswood on like their final weekend. It was big, and that was kind of like our peak. Like, and nothing will top that. There was a lot of you know, back and forth between the companies. There was a lot of all of that, the chatting, and it was kind of like, you know, we were climbing a mountain. We didn't start at the top. We started at nothing, and we were getting full held and all of that. And you know, you can't really ever recreate that. You can't ever recreate
hmm,
being so far below another company that it feels impossible, and then to overcome that. And then obviously, you know, after that, we went over, we were dominant on EU, and then we had Para eventually come along, and there was great competition. And there was, you know, basically since then it's only ever been Para that's pushed us.
yeah.
There's been no other company that has really done anything.
God, that's
I
kind
mean,
of
there's been
wild
other
though.
companies that have, you know, there's been other companies that have had really good showings. Like there was
Yeah.
one company that was put together, which or like 95% ticked up Windswood out of nowhere, called Great Cleave Border Control. But then it like broke down because of, you know, internal stuff. Obviously, like there were other good companies. There was Fatality, which, you know, looked like they could be strong, but the second they were center stage and kind of like fighting on a level, they didn't last nearly
I
long enough.
remember
They
that.
they
Yeah,
kind of broke apart.
I remember that a little bit. I caught a little fatality, and I was like, because I caught them before they started fighting you guys. I think that was on Abaton. I caught them a little bit before they made their way over there, and then as soon as they did, it was like they had like one war or a couple wars that I caught, and then it was like boom. Like I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, it's tough because obviously, you know, originally Dry Tree, when that was put together, like the NA server, it was like all the top companies, let's come together and let's go to one place and let's fight it. And we, you know, I started that server. I went around to like all the servers. This is the first merge when we got the option of where to merge. I typed everyone, got everyone together, and we had a really good bunch of companies. But we had some companies that refused. Fatality being one of them.
oh
So it was
really?
like a long time coming because Fatality was like, no, Dry Tree's not the highest pop, so we don't want to go there. So they kind of stayed in other ones. That was when it was like they were, I think, on uh, I don't even know. It was like Barry or Midgard ages ago. And then when it came all round to Abaton, a long time coming, a long time coming. We finally get to fight them,
Yeah.
and it didn't last very long. It didn't last very long, which is a shame because yeah, Fatality was certainly one of those things with a long build up, really long build up, and then just like a very short outcome. Parabellum, on the other hand, that's been a long, consistent war.
Parabellum it's kind of crazy, the whole conversation with Parabellum. In fact, somebody even came in today and said like the Paragods, like these guys are starting to like you know
That's their name now
yeah
because they had a
yeah
merge.
yeah, like that's, dude, I mean it sounds like you know, Parabellum has kind of taken over that spot. I mean, would you? I know that the old Bonsai is still, you know, or I guess not old Bonsai, but the reform or the remade
Mhm.
Bonsai is still fighting them over there. But who is better at the moment? Because I don't really have my hands on the scene right now.
Well, in the last few wars, so Christmas has kind of put a bit of a break on everything.
Of course, yeah.
In the last few wars, it looks like 2.0 has taken over, but it's so within. So essentially, what it was, for, you know, probably 2 weeks before the final couple wars, it looked like Para was pretty confidently holding fort on defense.
Hmm.
But you know, fort's very hard to take, and pushing us very hard. But in the last couple of wars, Everfull was taken off Para by 2.0, obviously the biggest territory in the game.
No shit.
And then Para was full held for 2 flags
Damn.
by 2.0. And then a war after that, Para did take them to fort with only like 5 minutes on the clock. So in those last few wars, 2.0, if you're holding someone on the flags at this moment in time, that's a
Yeah.
very, very confident win. But that's only a few wars, so it's
It's
kind of up in
iffy.
the air. But right now, there was definitely a few weeks ago when 2.0 was just put together, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a lot of people, but
Well,
you're still trying to work out the roster, a lot of teething issues. Once those teething issues were out the way, it kind of looks like 2.0 is on top again.
well,
But
that's
maybe not. Maybe not.
yeah. That's I mean, that sounds like a good look though. I mean, if you just get put together and you're already kind of bringing that kind of competition to like Para, which is a strong company. It is kind of weird though. It's funny that you said that. When people get held on 2.0 right now, or if you get held outside the fort, it's a bad look for a
Mhm.
company. I
Very.
think so too. I talk about it on the stream, and I know I don't mean to beat it like a dead horse, but it really is the case. Like if a company can't get in the fort right now, like it's really, it's very, especially a competitive company. You know what I mean? Like even today, I caught like an enough versus Borpa, and I doubt I don't know if you know these companies, but like they've been kind of battling it out back and forth, and it's like man, enough really could not get to that fort. They had such a hard time; they couldn't get there, and it does make you think like, what is the issue? I mean, as somebody
Mhm.
who kind of deals with that, what do you think is the problem? Like when companies can't get the fort, like what does it come down to?
Um. Well, I mean, if you're talking about a situation like Power was in, where they're used to taking us to fort and then suddenly they're held on flags, I think that's pretty simply kind of not practicing flags because it's kind of a given now. Everything's fort. You don't really practice flags. You just do the flags, take the flags down. Takes
Hmm.
5-10 minutes, then you're at fort. So a bit of that, but also like mental. Like the fact is, everyone knows in the back of their head it's a bad look, which means if you're not in fort in those first 10 minutes, instantly your mental's going down the drain. You're
Yeah.
like, wait, is this gonna be a full hold? No, there's no way.
This can't.
It's like
This not me.
you
Not like
already feel
this.
like the war's lost. Like it's 10 minutes in, they got 2 flags. I feel like I lost the war. I'm used to taking a flag in the first 2 minutes. Like what's
Yeah.
going on? And the mental goes down. Long respawns come up, and realistically, flags should fall very fast in the
Yes.
first like 10-15 minutes. They should fall. But when the respawn times get longer and longer, the final flag's not easy. It
Mhm.
just doesn't look that hard because people usually take them down before you get to long respawners. But taking that final flag down with 45-second respawners, unless you're like quite a lot better, the defender's advantage comes back up, I think. So as those respawn waves come longer and longer, flags become easier. So it's actually those first 10 minutes, they all fall because flags are the easiest to take
Mhm.
and you got momentum. So that's kind of the reasons I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that you bring up like that you bring up like the momentum and keeping a good mindset because I talk about this before. We had like Gladsworth on and Keylash on and some of the other people who are like shot callers and things like that for their companies. It's like, dude, if you start like getting in your head, people don't realize how much that really affects you, dude. Like if you start getting in
Uh,
your head, man, like the fucking war is over. Like,
Wars are won and lost on that
are you
more
a?
than you would imagine.
Oh yeah, I'm curious. Are you like a shot caller for your company, or have
Yeah,
you?
so
Yeah.
well, whilst I was governing, I was shot caller the whole time for Bonsai.
Well,
I
how
was
would you like describe your shot calling, man? Because I know we had like I had Gladsworth on, and Gladsworth is like he's like cool, calm, calculated, and I had
mhm.
Keylash on, and he's like a lot like me, where he's like in your face, loud. He's trying to keep up the energy, So it's like, how would you like describe your shot calling? It's kind of curious.
um, I think it's hard to say. I mean, realistically, that's probably a better question for someone who I've shot called to
Yeah,
than me. I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
guess that's fair. Yeah.
I do quite a lot of micro,
Hmm.
Um, yeah, definitely high energy, definitely high energy. A lot of talking. I don't like downtime. I know everyone's got their own style. My style is a lot of information. I put a lot of information out there.
I
I
don't like
do
downtime either.
I did bomb calls, the amount and where I did them kind of came up. But yeah, I'll do calls, I'll call shifts, I'll call micro calls. Yeah, but it's kind of hard to say. I keep the energy high. Try to keep it positive. That's always a big thing. Very, very much try to keep it positive. The way the general shot calling setup was, like I'm main shot caller, I'll make the decisions, but I have a few support callers. If I go down, I have someone that would like take over my role. And then we have a couple people like Sinch who said, would step in or give some info about something that's not going on. You might hear the clips of him getting pissed off that people aren't stacking the point, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I've heard a
we've got some
couple of
support coolers, but
those.
it was me as the cooler.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I like what you said about like always having information. I think that's actually really important. Like, it's like that's kind of how I like to roll too. Like, I feel like any information is good information as long as people are listening. But that's the thing; it kind of brings it full circle to what we said about kind of, the leaderboards, having people listen. It's like it's so hard. The soldier mentality to kind of drill into your army is something that's like, I guess the people have to really like respect and understand that like the person calling right now it's like you just have to treat them as like the best opinion. Like it's like I think as soon as people start kind of getting in their heads like, oh dude, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, and like I think that's when it starts getting sketchy. It's good to have the backup callers and like kind of like the people who like can give you like, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe we should switch this up. But have you ever been in a situation when there's too many cooks, man? Like I don't know how many. I've been in a situation where I had this one time, bro. I'm not even kidding, dude. I had this one time. This company asked me to call for him, dude. This company asked me to call for him, dude. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. Why not? And I go over there, and I'm in the war. I'm calling for him. It's not the cleanest war we've ever had. Like it's a struggle. And
Yeah.
like 5 minutes in, this dude is just on my ass. I'm like, dude, he's like, we should be doing this. So I'm like, I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, bro, you asked me to call for you. It's like, I don't know. Like, that's kind of one of the things that bothers me. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those situations where it's like,
I had a pretty good one, to be honest. I got asked to call a war, post retirement. So it was kind of like it was a war of not great companies, but they wanted to learn. So I was like, yeah, sure, fine. I'll main shot call. Your shot caller's not there. I'll do it. So I go in and they're attacking a company that's just better than them. And there's only so much you can say on attack when we're attacking and they're just losing the fights. Like we'll try rotations, but you're just worse. You're not going to take flags. You
yeah,
got stuff to improve on. But I'll be calling it properly, and saying what to do, like push up, let's get to positions, blah blah. And this is the other like I guess consoles or whatever, the people that would be talking on the mic with me, um, they'd take my information and they'd back it up. They'd be like, really important to push up, but then they'll start getting so annoyed at the army for not doing it.
yeah.
They'd be like, guys, push the fuck. I'm like, I got like chill, like they can't actually get the point. He's like, I'm not saying any more fucking point. You're all like calling them absolutely crap. And I'm like, okay, like I wasn't gonna say anything. That's his guys. But these guys aren't getting the point. I'm sorry, man. Like they could know I could control their WSD of any one of them. They're not getting to position. They're getting completely outclassed and railed. And it's like these multiple people just like getting completely pissy at the army. And I'm just here like, man, don't be too harsh on them, okay?
Yeah, look, I'm just giving them direction. Let's be real here. Like, I knew 5 minutes in, this shit was a wash. like, don't roast him too hard, man.
Yeah, it's like, just go too hard on his own army. I felt so bad because I was like, I'll say push up, then he'd like back me up and like start calling people out for not pushing up. I was like, well, he's alone. It's not one person.
Yeah, and then it's like those people are in the back of their head like, man, fucking Ploj comes in here and now they're on my ass, dude. Now they're yelling at me because I'm not listening. Like, dude, I feel you, man. It's that mentality for sure. Those are rough wars though, because in a calling position, it's like people start questioning your calls whenever it's a clear roster diff. Like whenever it's just an absolute clear roster diff, people start going like, oh well, maybe we don't rotate here. Maybe we do. It's like, nah, man. Like you don't want to say it mid-war because you don't want to demoralize people, but it's like almost at the same time you just want to be like, look, guys, this is fucked.
Yeah, people got to understand where they're just worse. Like as an army, and but it's not like the thing like strats and stuff are great, and there's a lot to do. And I mean the thing is, we had this ourselves when we were starting, right? Like when we were going against this BDB, like this is when you could respawn on flags, right?
Yeah.
We were getting full held on 3 flags. And we would be like rotating, and I was thinking like, okay, we do this rotation, blah blah, and then we'd take a flag, and like, oh, we took a flag, oh my god! And then we came to the conclusion of like, okay, well, I kind of want to win this, and I'm not going to win this by rotation. We need to actually be able to face them, like on their level. Like until like player for player, you can face. You don't even need to be on the level. You need to be close enough. Until you get close enough, you can't really make decisions on anything else because you won't know. You can't test anything. Like you can't test a strat if people are just worse, because it doesn't matter what strat you do, you're gonna lose. So yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of companies don't you don't want to spend too much time looking into like what's the strats, what's the min
Yeah.
max, is it the macro. Sometimes we just need to get the fives down. We need to get our players slightly a min max gear. We need to get them understanding what they're doing as an individual, work on them, and then come back to like the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think
That's a
that's a
lot.
great freaking point, dude. Because I feel like someone is, sometimes you can get sucked in, like you're saying, to that like big macro play. But it's like reality is like you got to work together as a five. Like you guys got to work on your build. You got to work on your, like you got to think, do I have the right perks? Do I have the right build? Or am I playing with my five stack correctly? Like there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not always about like, oh, dude, we got to do a weird loop around and that. So it is interesting because I've been in that situation too before, and it's hard as I know. Oh, you've been in Bonsai, so I don't think you ever had this problem. But whenever my company personally was getting pretty down bad, it's like I didn't know how to break it to him. Like I didn't know how to break it to him in the fact where I was like, guys, like I didn't want to say this in a mean way, but it was like, I was just like, guys, like we just are not good enough. Like we are just at the point where the people we have is not we're just not good enough, and it's like having that tough conversation. I guess it was just really hard, it's like you feel like you're breaking hearts, man. Like, dude, I don't know how to tell you guys, man. It hurts.
I mean that's in the end with that kind of stuff, it comes to expectations going in, understanding of where you place within the other companies, and then finding companies that are on your level a bit better than you, like better enough that you can learn. And that's, I mean, in the end, for any company to learn as a 50, you want to fight better people. You want to fight people that aren't so much better that you don't get to play the game.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it's like, yeah, people, if you
There's
find that,
levels.
then you get a really good, yeah, absolutely.
There's really levels to wars. Like sometimes, and like I try not to be mean whenever like I don't know, I guess lower tier companies end up like decking on, let's say like a supple, let's say like a dropouts. It's like I can't help but just be like, it's like I want to see these guys improve, but there's that feeling that it's like, dude, these guys are not learning anything. Like these guys are not gonna learn nothing from this war. Like it's like you don't want to gatekeep the content. You don't want to sit here and be like, oh, you shouldn't push, but at the same time, it's like, damn, like I don't know how. I don't know if you are actually gaining anything from this war. Did you guys ever fight any, like, was there any prominent companies that kept fighting Bonsai? Like, was there any company that for some reason, like, they just always got destroyed, but they just kept coming back?
We
like rats, dude. No, I'm kidding. That's me.
we've had our fair share, because it was definitely, obviously kind of where we are now. I think all of EU's kind of in line of understanding cross server where companies fall. But as the first mergers came in, everyone thought they were top dog. Hence why the server came together. Which means even after we put rivalries together and we started owning it, we had other companies that would be like, oh, we'd call them the server destroyers. And we had them. They'd come over. It would be like Acro, or some people that would come over and then they'll get spawn camped, and then they would keep going and drill until they eventually just kind of gave up. So we had some, and some stuck around longer, pushing us than others. I think like Ferox pushed us, not every day, but they pushed us over 3 months, and they never took a flag. But they kept going. So yeah, no, some people did that, and in the end, if they're taking wars away from like good wars, it's a shame.
Yeah,
like that's when it's a shame. It's like,
yeah.
realistically, you're not
Both
getting anything
sides
this.
don't
We're not
like
getting
that.
anything this. Yeah, no one likes this.
Yeah.
But if no one's pushed it and they want to push it, yeah, fine. Like if they want to experience that, they will experience that. I mean, I know some of these companies, they're like, we not want to win, but I want to show my guys, because my guys keep saying, we can do it. So why not? Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And not to switch topics too abruptly here, but I do, because this has been something that I've been wanting to ask you for a while, dude. How was whenever you went? Was it TwitchCon? I think it was. Yeah. How was that experience? Because obviously, I haven't been to anything like that, but like I know I remember watching the tournament, or watching whatever that was.
The tournament.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Tournament.
I really, because I've been dying to ask you, bro. What was that like? Like, what was the process, dude? Like, it just, I don't know. It looked like it needed a little touching up. But I want to hear like firsthand, like, what was it like, dude?
Okay, first of all, in general, it was my first time going as well. I've only been streaming a year, and it was only 6 months at that time. So I went as a whole. It was a great event, very fun.
Of course.
Um, Now, obviously, for the tournament, one of the one of the reasons to go interesting, I guess we'll say it basically it went like this, right? There was a few lines of desks with a bunch of PCs, where you'd have kind of like brackets, and I think they're kind of like two boxes, like two round robins, and then there was like semis, finals,
Hmm.
and then there's a main stage, and we'd go into a server like the PTR, but like its own server. So they did make its own server for this with its own world, and you'd open up and you'd have a bunch of like how you get boxes on the PTR,
Yeah.
except they weren't random. They weren't random.
Oh,
So
really?
you'd
So
open
they
them
were
and everyone
set.
get the exact same gear.
Okay.
But the thing which made it very odd was, well, there were only certain perks because it was preset gear. They'd only put like you didn't have any VG perks.
Oh
There
shit.
was
So
no
there wasn't
like
like nullifying
there,
oblivion
there
or.
was no nully, there was no anti heal. Like we
Oh,
couldn't get
what the
anti heal on our gear.
fuck?
And I asked this. We prepped stuff, we prepped VG because it's an arena and everyone's gonna go pretty tanky arena with a lot of like anti heals big. So we had all these things ahead, and it's just like, no, we don't we don't have those perks.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
you
yeah.
just you didn't have a unending fall. There was like
Whoa,
a
there's no.
bunch of baseline perks that you just didn't have that made some builds like irrelevant. Like we stuck with it. So that was a bit of an interesting situation, and also we had realistically, obviously there was one other team there that was like a good team who we lost to in the finals, but
Yeah.
outside of that, it was we'd just get some randoms come up and they just get completely destroyed
Yeah,
in the
they're
arenas,
like,
right?
I'm here to play some New World.
Yeah, like people turn up and we were like 1v3ing because like the pieces
Yeah.
weren't working, but you'd go in. So
Yeah, I remember the technical
there wasn't
difficulties.
it was interesting and long, and then I mean, yeah, like you said, the Topaz Persian story. So this is when Topaz pots would give you 15% void resistance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this is a perfect example of New World in my head. So obviously there's guys running like the New World, like the New World devs or whatever, the
Yeah,
people
yeah.
running this whole tourney, and we're sitting around in like this PTR thing waiting for hours. And we come up with the idea because they say you can use anything you want. We're like, why don't we just make some Topaz pots? Because it's not that hard to make. Let's go make it.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, this could be scummy. So let's ask them. Let's ask like this guy who comes around. So we say, hey, can we use Topaz bots? And he's like, let me ask like the New World guy. It comes back and they're like, yeah, you can use them.
Oh, okay.
and we're like, cool. But then we look at each other and we're like, okay, there's no way they know. So we put them over again, and we were like, okay, you said yes, but let me explain what a Topaz pot does and how we make it. And then you go back, and then he came back, no, that's not allowed.
Oh my
It's like
wait, whoa, he did know that that's what
they didn't know, even though they went and asked like the guys running the tourney, the New York guys.
Oh,
We explained, we said Topaz pot. They're like, yeah, you can use Topaz pot. Probably confused. Why would you do that? And then we had to like explain that this gives a competitive advantage, right? And it's not given to us. And this is after it's been in for like 4 months, and everyone's using it every single
yeah,
week.
yeah,
I'm
like
just
that was
oh,
so commonly known. Oh no, that would have been like, I would have been crushed. Like it's like things but it's like I would have been like, yes, sir. We've been beta testing your game, and I don't know if you know this about obviously not throwing shade at New World, but it's like, no shade to them. It's it's all love at the end of the day. But it's just like one of those things that like, damn, like experiencing it firsthand, like that had to hurt a little. Like, damn, dude. But I remember all the technical difficulties and people were memeing it, of course, but I still think it was cool. At the end of the day,
it's awesome. I'm so happy I was never expecting it.
Yeah.
I'm happy they did it. They had commentators. They had a little stage. I got this, I got to see some New York people. Realistically, I make jokes. It's all funny, and I hope we can do this in a, with all the weapon perks, etc. But it was awesome.
A little more legit.
I'll take it over not having it any day of the week. So
yeah, I was out there rooting for you too, man. I was rooting for, look, I was like, come on, make it happen. Come on. Hey, look, it is what it is, dude. I remember that final stage. I'm like, come on, bring it back. It's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting. I just wanted to ask about that because it's like I've never really talked to any of the devs. Has any of the devs ever reached out to you personally? Like, said what's up?
I wish, man.
Yeah,
I wish.
yeah, and that's kind of why I wonder. I feel like for me at least, the devs are like these spooky anomalies. I'm like, I'm trying to, I'm trying to like figure out how like, hey dude, just
Yeah,
streaming your
no,
game
no,
out here,
yeah,
trying to have some fun. You want to make some fun, like, it's
yeah.
like,
The Return to Eternal event, right, with a fresh start.
yeah,
I was hoping that would kind of, I'd be able to
be
get
it,
a
yeah,
bit more conversation with them there. But
yeah.
yeah, I realistically, I mean, I think they've got a new content creator program. Hopefully, in the future, we can open up some more
How did you
lines of
feel about that
communication.
event, dude? Like overall, I've been pretty vocal
Uh,
about how I felt about it. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, look, I mean, again, I'm not gonna. It was something that, I'm happy that they put an event on. I'm happy there was some skins and interactive stuff.
Hmm.
I think they kind of the aftermath was not good of what they
Yeah,
did to servers. It was, I think, that's my main problem, because as good as bad as the event actually was, you could leave the event at some point, but the fact that they kind of trapped it in, as well as the communities and the time invested, and it took so long to get anything afterwards, that was, I think they kind of did a fast one on a lot of people.
yeah.
It could have
It
done,
felt like we were
yeah,
stuck on there, dude.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
on Titan and like I feel like my server died so fast. I was just sitting there. It was like, damn. Like I felt like it came and went very fast. I know you were you on
Yeah.
the trees? Were you on?
Yeah, we were on the trees. We ended up actually getting the
Yeah,
win
you
in the
guys
end.
were
And
popping off,
I mean, I'll tell you what, I lost a lot of hair. I
dude.
lost a lot of
Yeah,
hair.
I remember
I
you were
don't
on
know
a crazy.
how.
Was that a you were on a crazy subathon at the
Well,
time,
I
right?
was mid subathon as well, right?
Yeah,
But the
yeah, yeah.
subathon wasn't why I was losing the hair. It was trying to get people to work together. It is
Yeah.
so hard and crazy, and they would like trying to complete. You're meant to complete 6 out of 8, right? And we had like 2 left to go, and it's like, do Starstone or do fishing, and we just everyone decided to do both. They're like, why don't we do both? I was like, no. Let's
Yeah.
not have this. And I was losing my head. I was having like long conversations. Then someone pushed for a war, right? So someone
Yeah.
pushed for a war with EGs, and they got really annoyed because they're like, no wars in the server. So the people that had the war
Oh, that
declared on them
bothers me
decided,
so much. I'm sorry, but that bothers me so
no, no,
much,
no,
dude. All right.
you have no idea how much I was
God,
wanting
that
to stream.
bothers me,
So,
bro.
so EGs, these purples, right? These purples,
Mhm.
they push the territory. They push the greens. I'm yellow, sir.
Okay.
They push the greens, and the greens hate it. They hate the idea of, why are you pushing? Don't want war.
What do you mean?
So what the Greens decide to do? What the Greens decide to do is they say, okay, we'll just give you the territory. You won't have fun. No one will turn up. And then I turn up to the Greens. I'm like, look, let us play the war for you, man. We'll give it up at the end. Let us play the war. We
Yeah.
want war. I'm saying that. Nope. Bans everyone who joins the war. No
What?
one's allowed in. No one's allowed to have any of the fun. All of that. Oh my god.
But
You have
why
no, you have
though?
no idea.
What?
But why? Because he wanted to stick it to those purples that push for a war. Stick it to them because they're not helping the server, although they
Oh
were
my god.
helping the server a huge amount. And then it was also quite funny because obviously there's a lot of returning players,
Yeah.
and EGs was one of these returning companies with a lot of returning players, and there was a real mix of kind of like some vets and then some returning. And when wars did eventually break out at the end, it really showed quite a big difference between how far people have come since playing this game. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Really?
Just how far. Yeah.
See, my thing is it's funny that you bring up some of the wars because that was the biggest thing that bothered me about the event, man. I remember, dude. I mean, honestly, shout out to Danny. Danny TV was trying his best to get some PvP going, at least on my server. I wasn't, I was trying. It was just hard. It was really hard, just due to the population. But I do remember the first couple wars. There was one war specifically that I was a part of this company, and we were defending Windsward or no Everfall. I was super pumped for it, dude. Like I was like, all right, guys, let's have some fun. Let's, and it's like it was just a complete throw war. Like it was just a throw war, and I'm just like, for me, it was like super weird. And I've said this on stream, but it was really weird because it was like I feel like, and I don't know if you got this too, but it's like I feel like this is the opportunity. This is a perfect time for like creators like us, content creators, especially like us who have been around through, the ups and downs of New World. It's like this is the time to maybe, get some cool content creation out there. You know what I mean? Like have like people interact with, like you bring these big boys, you bring these people onto the into the event. Why not mingle with the people who sit here and play your game all day? You know what I mean? Like that.
I mean, obviously,
I know.
I don't think, obviously I'm on your side of that one, man.
I mean, and like, I'm not trying to stir the pot. I mean, I'm pretty vocal about this, but it's like, it just, I feel like, wouldn't it, I say this a lot, but man, wouldn't it have been so cool if like, all the, like the first or second war, we pull all the content creators, like we're able to get it and we just pull us all together and we have like a legit war. We have like funny clips and things like that. And it's like, there could have been so much opportunity for some fun. And it's like just the fact, and also it just shows how PvP gets shafted in this game, that the in-game content that is wars are completely thrown on an event where we have so many eyes on us. Like it was like time for New World to get a bunch of eyes. I'm like, people are gonna see the wars and they're gonna be like, yo, this is hype. We need to, I want to be in a war. But it's like, the reality is the PvP's in a bit of a rough spot. It just always has been. I feel like it's like we're always kind of like playing catch up. I don't know how you feel about it, but
I mean, look, the whole content creator side. I mean, it's definitely a shame. I don't think anyone like us can deny. We put our heart and soul in the game. We play this game all the time. This is the game we play. This is you're the guy to go for it. Anyone that plays competitive wars, NA, you're the guy to go to for casting. And
oh, thanks,
they pull other people, and it's fine. I get it. It's advertising. They want to get some big names.
Oh yeah, I don't blame them.
I just like where was the love for the actual New World players, man? Because realistically, like there was team captains, right? Like I was on a team. My team captain wasn't playing the game day 3.
Yeah,
I'd tune in his stream. He just wasn't on the game. And it's like fine, cool, but like everyone you invited is off the game, and it is your old New World streamers that are still here trying to play. And sure, we get into the servers by, someone finally coming around and asking, but I don't know. It did feel a little bit like, I would love some love.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to say, right? I mean, when a lot of us are, putting the time and stuff in, well, I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I feel like that's something that people are kind of like, beat around the bushy, and it's like why not? Why the hell not say it? I feel like, I feel like that's cool, and that's no disrespect to any of the other, any other streamers or anything like that. I feel like it just comes down to the dev side, to the whatever marketing things like that, because I feel like I don't know about you, but I know a lot of the people that catch my streams and even your streams and stuff, there are a lot of players. It's not just like somebody from a variety streamer or something. It's like these people play the game, and I think that's really cool. But again, at the end of the day, that's on them, and I appreciate even being in the conversation, because look, I'm very aware that like just even over a year ago I was a freaking nobody. So it's like the fact that I'm even I'm even in here is cool. I'm very much respectful to that. I'm always going to stay humble no matter what. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It is what it is. I think the event had there was so much opportunity for it, and I feel like it was kind of squandered a little, but at the end of the day, people are still around, we're still playing. It's a lot. There's still fun to be had. And I don't want to like poop on New Worlds here, but that's the reality of the situation. It's kind of nice to talk about it, because I know for me personally, it did feel like PvP was kind of a little shafted. Like I was trying to do the events. I was like, okay, what's the PvP event? Like, what's the one thing I can do for PvP? It's like get open world kills. I'm like, I'm running around trying to get open world kills, but everybody's mining iron. I'm like, dude, I'm like trying to find, I'm like, dude, nobody's out here PvPing, it's like, I'm trying to do some of these, PvP things. And I think obviously, I mean, you PvE as well. But you're pretty big into the PvP side of things. If people don't know,
when it comes down to it, that's why I do the PvE here.
Yeah,
I do the PvE just to do some more PvP.
Yeah. Is there a new item I need? Is there a new item I need? Shit, I'm gonna do some PvE until then.
More shards needed. Time to go to mutations. But that's about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm, and that's kind of how I am. I think the PvP side of things is constantly just like, we do the PvE content and that's great. But like you said, it's kind of to just try and do more for the PvP side of things. But it's like, I feel like sometimes in this game, we really have a lack of, love in the PvP side. Like, it's still crazy to me. And again, I'm not trying to just ramble up here, but it's still
No,
crazy
no.
to me, dude, that like, we still don't have another map for OPR. Like we still don't have another game mode. Like we still don't have like legitimate. Like I don't know. It's just like being wet.
Yeah, don't bring me onto the roadmap.
Dude, wait, what do you think about the roadmap, bro?
Yeah.
Because I've taken a little peek at it, but yeah, it's
Yeah, the roadmap. Yeah, I'll tell you my plan. They planned out a really nice holiday for me.
shit.
No, I mean
Plush
it's
big chillin'.
no, it's I don't know, man. It was like, wait, what do we get? We got in a few months' time, we might get cross server OPLs. And what in summer is cross server OPLs. That's that was it.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
know.
mean, yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean, I don't have the numbers. I'd love to see the numbers,
yeah,
but
for sure.
when I play this game, when I'm playing with my mates, when I'm playing with a lot of the players that are around a lot,
Hmm.
they're in OPR or they would be in OPR or arenas or trying to engage in some form of PvP. They're on because they're preparing for a war in the future. Like,
Do
I
you,
know they have the numbers, so I can't say that the PvP community is bigger than they
yeah,
expect.
I
But
was gonna say, do you ever feel like they're slowly pushing out the PvP community here? Like, do you ever feel like we're getting pushed out? Or do you think it's just like a slow burn? Like, do you think it's not intentional? Or do you think they're just like, you know what? Let's just let's just keep on the PvE. We do not care. Like, what do you feel?
I don't know. Look, I think it's hard to say. Jumping to the conclusions, I know for a fact that they don't push PvP out. That is the
Yeah.
baseline of the game, right? But there's obviously a big return to their investment on PvE. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
putting out dungeons like nothing, like dungeon each pack a new dungeon. And so they must be getting a good result. Like they wouldn't be doing that unless they're getting good engagement. So the PvE side must be holding players.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
yeah, I
No,
do feel like the PvP side. I think one problem with the PvP side is it's quite hard to provide good content long
I
term.
feel that.
Like,
Yeah.
sure, we could do another OPR map, but how much would that change? A new OPR map that's played the same probably wouldn't, last that long before we get into the same cycle. So you want
Mhm.
to bring something out that's big and new, kind of like how they did arenas or the idea of leaderboards, but leaderboards comes with their own issues. They talk about well, people could talk about a ranked mode, but realistically, other players that's hard to implement. That ranked is generally the long term grind because
Yeah.
that's the one thing you can do, but I'm not sure if they can implement it. So
I think that's a
there
great
need,
point, man. Like
yeah,
that's a great point.
it's
Like
not
you can
it's not
add these
easy.
things, but is there any retention to it? Like, because from their side, we got to think about they got to think about retention. I think that like for instance, I would love rated OPR, but I think that would only appeal to like the top percent of the PvP community because like
Mhm.
I just think that would be cool as hell. Like being able to have more of a smaller scale competitive setting for that wasn't wars. It's not 50v50s, but like maybe it's a 20v20 and you have to all be in the company to queue up for like a rated OPR. Like I think that'd be badass. Like it could breed for more of a competitive environment, but not necessarily because like wars is the end game right now, dude. I mean,
Mhm.
that like wars are
That's
the
it.
wars are the peak of competition. Nobody's really out here like I'm the best at arenas. It's like, okay, well, what do you own on the map? Like you can be the
Yeah.
best at arenas, but I don't really see many people like coming in touting that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know
No,
how EU works. Is arena bigger in EU or what? From your side of thing, like what's the PvP scene look like in arena or my bad in EU aside from wars? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think, I mean, I play arena. War's number one, then arena, then OPR.
Hmm.
That's kind of like how I'll do it. I mean, you don't get that many good arenas. I solo queue arena.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna three stack arena because you're not
shit
gonna find a
stop.
good three stack,
Yeah,
or you're not gonna get a queue.
yeah.
So running solo, you can have some fun. But even then, like I don't know the even on Barry, right, which is the center of the PvP, I go arenas. You'll just stomp people because the people who are like the proper players, they're kind of becoming warloggers, or they do OPR.
Hmm.
Arena feels kind of like I like it because I like it for the stream. I like playing kind of random builds, so it's kind of off to the side. I think arena's good. I don't think you need to touch arena, but it's not like good enough for like long term. It's fun to do a few things in. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking if they want to do, like tournaments, that's something that I've run before. In fact, tomorrow I've got like a 1 mil tourney going on.
Oh, really?
So like community
Hey,
tournaments
are you
have
gonna be
always
streaming
been
that,
big.
dude?
Yeah, I'll be streaming that and
Hey, you guys heard it
commentating.
here
That'll be
first, dude. No.
there you go. A 1 million prize pool. But I
That's
think
sick.
because I was thinking like, how can you world bring something which is good to do like PvP wise, but isn't like crazy, so some like a whole new system. I would love to see actual game side tournaments in arenas.
That'd be
Like
cool as
just
hell.
imagine there was one day where you sign up as your team and then you just go through and you only play people who've won other matches. So
So
you go into
are
one,
you
the
familiar with
winners
like
play the
League of
winners.
Legends?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of like a clash, like maybe like a clash mode where you can sign up as like with a team and just kind of go in for like a bracketed tournament kind of
Yeah,
deal. I see people saying
those kind of things.
I see people always saying, I see in the chat right now, practice wars. I've been talking about this for a long time. But I want your opinion on that, dude. What do you think, man? Like, because I agree, man. I've been saying it for a while that I think New World would heavily benefit from practice wars. I know that the devs have like brought it up and it's definitely a lot to implement, but I think that would be awesome. Like to give people an output. But like, what's your opinion on that, dude?
I mean, I would love to see. I mean, maybe even a step of that. I would like to see custom matches for like so wars and OPRs. I don't. I want to be able to you know basically set up an OPR
Ooh,
like
that
I
would
set
be
up wars.
awesome. I
Like
haven't even thought of
like
that. Like a custom OPR.
like custom OPRs. I think that's one thing that is kind of like on the tip. Like OPRs, the complaint for OPRs will probably be the same everywhere. Don't want to go war build because then some bows going to shoot you and you're going to walk in and you just got muskets and bows, so you become a musket and a bow and then everything kind of like spirals.
Yeah.
Or if you want to, you can try queue up as like a company and go like 4 5s, but you're going to mix and someone's going to steal Baron and back cap. If you give me a custom OPR that I can work with a company or invite people from stream, you can make OPRs very interesting, very competitive, very fun.
Oh yeah, because you
I
can even
think
be in a
100%.
Discord. You could separate your company 2020 stack, and hell, you could have one guy coming in and kind of like helping guide both sides and try, get that real experience. Because I think the reality right now is, and I think this is a problem with it's not even the players gateway or gatekeeping the war content from the like new players. It's the fact that the new players that are trying to get into wars don't have the tools to learn how to war. You know what I mean? Because I think the best way to the best players in war are the people who have warred the most. So it's like I don't think OPR is necessarily a good spot to learn that right now. Arenas definitely isn't. It's like where do you get this kind of content? And then you force these players to kind of push for these like grueling faction missions just to get in and get stomped. It's like it's a rough spot, dude. It
Yeah,
really
very
is,
tough.
man.
I mean, good luck getting into a top roster without a VOD of you playing in a war, but then it's it's kind of like
You got
applying
to
for
get
a
in that
job.
war.
That requires you to have another job. And I think, well, get me a
Dude,
job first.
but let's just be honest. New World Wars and the politics and stuff, it might as well be a fucking job, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
you're not wrong. But I mean, that's that's certainly something, and that's where something like custom OPRs would come in, because there's no doubt in my mind that trying out people, getting a set OPR with quadrant groups, bruiser groups playing, you can learn all you want. Obviously, custom wars being the exact same. So that kind of stuff, it will give that nice stepping stone, which I know AGS wants. It was their reasoning for the recent war changes. They
yeah.
want wars to be more accessible to more people. That was their reasoning. I don't believe that's happened one bit with these changes. I think there's just fewer wars.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think they're
dude, I
probably
was
even
gonna
less
ask
accessible
about that.
now.
Yeah. What do
But
you feel about the changes? Like,
I like the idea behind them, the goal. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think there's ever a requirement for what shells were. I think that the base idea behind it was right. The execution hasn't led to that though. I mean, definitely not from our server. Maybe in other servers, but I don't believe that more people getting wars. I just think there's fewer wars. That's how it feels to me.
yeah, it's kind of weird because one thing I'm starting to notice too is like there's a lot more wars that are just completely over in 5 minutes. Like it's almost like I know some people say it's an attack meta. but I feel like it's an attack meta because what happens is this is I don't know if this happened in EU, but this is what I'm seeing in NA. So because the defense you need 40 in company and the attack you need 25 in company, you have a company pushing with 25 in house and a lot of mercs. This isn't maybe this isn't A. This bring back to the
Okay.
merc convo, but
Okay.
you have a lot of companies pushing in with 25 attackers and 25 mercs. They take the territory because the defending company has 40 in house and only 10 mercs, and the defending company might be struggling to pull together the last couple people for the 40. And then that attacking company wins. They only were able to slot 25. They're not a big company, and then now they're on the defense. Now they can't slot a full 40 because they attacked with only 25 in house. So now the attackers just take the territory right back, and it's like a 5-minute war and then a 5-minute war. It's like that's what I'm starting to see. It's like that's kind of like it's very weird. I agree that I like that there's a merc limit, but it's like that I think is why there's so many attacks, like so many territories are flipping, but like not in like a good kind of way. You know what I mean? Like it's not a good kind of flip. I don't know if that's happening in EU, but it's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen that happening here.
Yeah,
When I saw the patch, right, 25 mercs on attack, 10 defense. It's very obvious. Okay, the devs want territories to flip,
of course.
but again, like, yeah, at least from our perspective of the companies that are fighting our servers, all the companies don't merc
Mhm.
more than 10. Like you might have, if a company's merking more than 10, they're a very weak company.
Do you think what?
That's it.
Do you
That's
think
for
that's
us. The second
because?
you're a strong company, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, it's certainly like no strong company that I know would merc over 10 people.
That's crazy. I wonder if
Not.
it's because the population difference. Like, I feel like I can't speak for all the companies here, but I feel like there's some companies here that it's like they want a war, but it just doesn't feel like they have enough to have like a solid 40. You know what I mean? Like like they have just enough. It doesn't ever feel like I
They
feel
got to
like
start
I don't know
merging.
what the problem. I'm just trying to
The
wonder
the
what the
problem is
problem is.
they're not merging.
Yeah.
This is a problem we had. Well, I'm sure it continues to have. This is a problem that I've seen a lot in a lot of servers, and a lot of companies don't ever get to a good point
Mhm.
because they're not willing to merge into another company.
That's crazy,
And
man.
it comes down from the top, right?
Mhm.
Like obviously there's a big thing you got to step aside. You got to put the ego aside. Like, okay, fine, we're giving up the name. We're giving up. We're going to merge into another company,
Yeah.
but we're going to end up having a strong company. Like we were lucky because when I made Abris, we were the biggest purple, which means a lot of other companies kind of like came into us, which means we stayed as
Mhm.
the core company. So we didn't really have to put that aside. But I don't think any company can just grow to the size of these big warring companies without merging into one another,
Mhm.
without like putting aside your ego and putting aside your I'm making this and come together and do it. By the sounds of it, if you're still at a point where you have strong companies but they are needing mercs, these companies need to come together.
Mhm.
They just need to come together because you
Yeah.
can't rely on mercs. At least that's what I've seen. A true strong company would never have mercs because an internal 50 man will always be stronger long term than merking. Always.
Does EU run into a problem where they have like they just want to slap their friends? Because I feel like that's a lot of things. Like a lot of companies over here in NA, it's like you want to slot your friends and you want to slot your company because they're your company, but it's like I don't know. Like I don't know. They're like not willing to drop some players even if they're sub performing. Like what's that like on the EU side? Are you guys more brutal with it? Are you guys just like, look, dude, you're just not performing the best, or like what?
Look, that's I think that's very hard to say EUNA kind of thing. That's very company to company.
Yeah, it
Like
is company to company.
even within when I was running Bonsai, right? We kind of shifted along the line as we matured. Like there at the start, I was cutthroat. We're coming up from nothing
Hmm.
to become the best. You got to be cutthroat. I'm sorry, you're just gonna play the best. And then obviously once we get to a position where we're at the top and there's no competition, you do feel more okay. Like you want to play this guy, you do it. But then the problem is competition comes back, and that's where it's hard because you can coast at the top, and it's very easy to coast.
Hmm.
And we did everything in our power not to coast, but it's always natural. The problem is when the competition comes back and you've been coasting, and then it's like, okay, what decisions are we making? Are we cutting these people? Are we going to back these people? And that's where it kind of comes down to, we would make a decision at the time. Maybe we'll go for a more cutthroat, bench people. Maybe we'll go for, okay, I trust these mates. Obviously, in the end, it's all about becoming a mix. In the end, if you just, you know, say screw you, we're just gonna bench these people, add these people, you're gonna have a bad internal company. And whilst you might get a stronger roster temporarily, long term, you're just gonna break apart. We've seen that a million and one times. So it's all about finding a balance of getting the strongest in whilst maintaining like that social balance within the company.
Yeah.
And that's where being whoever runs the company, that's kind of on them, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Different companies do it differently.
With Bonsai, how many, like, I know you kind of said it there, but like, how many people would you say, like, it kind of was like on that roster and like never really left? Like, you know what I mean? Like, was there a good chunk of people that just constantly stayed?
Yeah, we had.
They just kept putting in the work.
I mean, we had. I mean, from start to end, which was almost a year, not a huge amount, but we had a very, very strong core
Mhm.
of. I would probably say there'd be at pretty much any point 30 people that would be names that I would be like, these have been like long term
Yeah.
guys, like
Like,
long
these are
long
the
term
guys
guys.
that are like reliable as fuck.
And yeah, I mean, we didn't lose many players. There was one time where we like lost a lot of people. A lot of people left. I cut a lot of people. There was kind of like one exodus. But
Was that
apart
like
from
from,
that,
was that from some like drama or like,
yeah, kind of like, yeah, that was kind of around drama. I was like,
was it an e-girl? No, I'm kidding. Was
I
it
wish it was
though?
that simple.
No, okay. I was like, dude, that's an NA problem, maybe. No, I'm kidding. It could be you too.
No,
Like, you
speak
would
to
be
somebody about that one.
amazed, bro.
Oh my god.
NA.
No, no, I don't want to get into that one. That is, yeah, I've heard stuff, but that's not just NA. That's not just NA. But no, I mean that was kind of like post Abaton for us. I mean, not post Abaton. It's like during Abaton when it was all attached to the whole. Are you gonna let people play with their mates, or are you going to put your strongest roster together? That's what kind of like set off a chain of events, which
Mhm.
ended putting us into like a bad position, which ended up making like
So this was
basically like
around that
a bit of a
Avalon
split.
time.
It was after Abaton
Mhm.
when the split kind of happened, and a lot went off to what became Synthetic Anguish, and now is merged into Para. So they ended up in Para.
Dude, what happened
Um,
to Avalon though? Like,
Abaton.
or Abaton, my bad. Yeah, like what
Yeah,
happened to
yeah.
Abaton? Like it was so popping there for a second, and I feel like it went for a good while. But I mean, I don't know. Like what? I don't know. I feel like it did fizzle out.
So Abaton was kind of like Faye, and I think you'd find most servers where you get a server and you have these small companies fighting, and they're having fun, they're having good fights. We call them retirement homes because we had a lot of people from like Dry Tree at the time
Yeah.
that would go over and join these other more casual companies, and they'll be like, "Yo, we're having a great time here, really fun." And then you'd get the big bads. They'd be like, they're warring, they've got like a popping pop.
Yeah.
Let's go over there. Let's go over there. So it was like an invasion. It was like an invasion. And then Faye went there first because this is Fatality, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were like, Fatality, come to Dry Tree, man. We got like a good baseline here. Us and Para fighting, blah, blah. Fatality was like, no, we're going to go over here to the retirement center. Para decided to go to the retirement center because they weren't having fun with us. And then a couple of weeks later, we ended up going. And what ends up happening there
The retirement center
is,
turned into a battlefield.
yeah, basically, you have a whole bunch of people that didn't sign up for this, and then the baseline server dies. So the warring was good. There's lots of people coming from war, but if you watch the pop, everyone just transfers away. No one wants to be there. The baseline pop of the PvE companies, the baseline pop of the companies that were having fun fighting before, they're not having fun anymore. So they will leave, and then you're left with skyrocketing prices, a bad like no baseline PvE community, which just leads to just a bad community. And
Yeah.
that's what happens with all those transfers where you just randomly invade
Yeah. I've
as
seen.
as just a couple companies.
Yeah, I've seen the best servers in New World. I say this on stream too, but I think the best New World, or the servers on New World, is the ones that have a good amount of PvE and a good amount of PvP. Like we saw
Hmm.
Themyscira, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it was a whole thing. All the big companies got together and we were like, all right, everybody's like, all right, We're going at the Misria. We're gonna have a bit. It's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be crazy. And everybody got there. I mean, all the companies really got there. It was nuts. And then it was like, dude, not many people were pushing wars. The wars were, I mean, look, it lasted about a week, but the wars were firecrackers. But like literally after a week, nobody was really pushing. It was all the people who were there was like, oh my God, here come the big bad PvP beast. We got to get out of here if we want to have any fun with the game. So they left, and it just turned into like an absolute ghost town. It went to a ghost town within a week, dude. It was very fast. Yeah, it was crazy because we've seen something similar, but it sounded like Abaton lasted a little bit longer. It's crazy to hear.
Yeah, no, I think those transfers, realistically, I think everyone's come to the conclusion that transfers are always going to happen because one company is going to come on top. It's fun when two companies are close, but eventually one or maybe two companies come on top and others are left out. And then people transfer off. They transfer off, and then eventually when one strong company is left alone, what's their choice? Their choice is to kind of either just get bored or they transfer and follow, and then the cycle restarts. So, there's a cycle in this game right now, and I think the devs are trying to stop the cycle. But I think
what's that
at least
cycle?
on our side, it's I think with the 30-day transfer window, which I think they've removed, but they try to make it 30 days to stop people just bouncing around. But yeah, right now it's Barry, and the guess would be Barry in a few weeks will be a bit of a wasteland, and then Para or 2.0 will decide, let's go here, and the other one will follow. And the dog and cat, dog and mouse, cat and mouse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the chase continues. The chase continues, dude. I think it's funny. We had that for a while. Not gonna lie, we did have that for a while. And in the NA side of thing, though, we're actually starting to see things like kind of shaping up. I'm not even gonna lie. Like we have I mean, all the servers are kind of seeing their own kind of light at the moment. I will say one of our servers, Marama, is definitely they're on life support right now. Marama's definitely
that bad.
I would say Marama's on life support right now because the problem is there's not and I'm sure you've been here, but there's not a competitive Marauder company. So it's like you have those two, you have two factions that are like, they can pull together a competitive company. And then it's like you have one faction that's not even, that's like really even struggling like horribly. And it's like, and I don't know if you've seen it like that, but when it gets to that point, it does start sucking because it's like, it completely relies on just that one other, these kind of two companies for decent wars. And even the PvE companies are like, they just stop caring too. They're like, I don't even care to push this. Like, what's the point? Because like Syndicate owned like the whole map. It kind of makes me want to ask you, what do you think about, because we talked about this today in stream, and I'm sure you have as well, but what do you think about like no factions? Because I feel like no factions would actually help out a lot.
Yeah, I talked about this a few times, kind of just like it being company based, not faction based.
Yes, dude.
I mean, put it this way, I think factions feel silly to me because the worst enemies you ever have in this game as a company are people in your faction. Because the only people that's going to stop me attacking Everfull is another purple company because they take it and then I can't attack it.
That's great.
That's the case.
Yeah,
and throughout history, like you can chat all you want to greens and yellows and back and forth, and then you go to war, you settle it. But if you start getting chat from another purple, you can't attack. You just take the territory, and then it's done. And it's like, okay, well now I gotta hope someone else, and it's just a really annoying circle. So it feels silly. The fact that your factions feel more like your enemies than the enemy factions.
Gosh, dude, that is something that has been going on. Yeah, dude, that has been something that's going on for a while. I mean, I remember even talking about like deck snipes and stuff like that, even at the beginning of New World. It's funny that you bring that up because like right now on Marama, that is like a huge thing. Like right now, like there's this company called Strict and there's a company called Maximum Effort, and they're both Syndicate. And these guys are just at each other's throats, like, like these guys are just at each other's throats. And it's like, it's funny because it's like, it's just beautiful. You said your biggest enemy is the people on your faction. And sometimes it really do be like that. It's like, damn. And you can't do anything about it either, you literally can't. Nope. So
you try poach each other's players, get really nasty, chat about how much better you are. they'd snipe each other's wars, like the
Yeah.
whole declare system. Yeah, if you really hate them, or you just finish the 10% and try snipe. Like
God, dude.
all the systems in place are to make you really annoyed at another company on your faction. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I
and
hate it. I
yeah,
hate it.
it leads to so much drama too. Because what happens is the faction chat goes from being like a safe space for all like the new players who are like, "Hey guys, I joined Syndicate. I'm gonna be a scientist. I'm a crazy scientist guy. I
Yeah,
love the purple color." And the
yeah,
faction chats all day like, "Man, fuck these guys. These guys are ass. Like they're
yeah.
getting carried." And it's like, it's like it's so funny because it's like, what can you do? Like there's nothing. I feel like having no companies would be so good because it's like, or my bad, no factions would be so good because it's like it would get. I do feel like this is a company v company game. I don't feel like this is a faction v faction game. You know?
I agree. And I think you could get more interesting open world. Now, I guess the downside is, the solo player, you don't really have kind of if you're just a player alone running around in the world, flagged, everyone's your enemy, you don't feel like you got like people with you. So I
Yeah.
guess that's the one thing they'll go against. But from my perspective, that's perfect. They're not my if they're not my company, I want to kill them. Simple as. And also, I thought that was a way to kind of reduce shell companies.
Yeah.
Because if in open world and everything you do, if they're not in your company, they are attackable and killable. Then yeah,
Yeah.
easy. You
Yeah.
can't open world unless they're in your company with you, or else you're pushing and you're fighting each other.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, man. I think it would add a dynamic. I do think though, I mean, unless some big things change, and I just think I think it would actually help population too, personally. But I think that like the end game, I think the true end game of PvP actually is going to be factionless. I think that at least in a PvP perspective, I think factionless probably is the move. But like obviously, we're all, like we're not the devs, however, we do play the
No,
game a lot. But it is it's interesting nonetheless here to think about it. And yeah, I mean, I think there's always a lot of things we can talk about PvP in general and stuff, but it is what it is, man. We're out here playing the game, having fun as much as we can. But to talk about it, and not to break away from New World a little bit, but what's some other games that you've been playing, dude? What's PlojOW been up to? Because like I know I see you still playing New World, but I also see you playing some other things too, man. What you've been rocking
yeah,
out?
I was kind of very addicted to something called Dark and Darker. They had a playtest that ended a couple days ago. It's kind of like Tarkov,
Yeah.
and I was hardcore addicted to that for a few days. But apart from that, honestly, I've had for the first time in a while a little bit of a break off a bit of everything, kind of around the Christmas period. Spending some time with the family.
Of
At the
course.
same time, the internet has not been working, so I've not really been able to stream, which
Oh
has been
damn.
really annoying.
Well, hey, I'm
Really
glad you're here,
annoying.
dude.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I was wondering. It like cuts out. It's the most annoying thing.
Hey, I
But
feel you on that.
eventually to be fixed. But yeah, honestly, not too much at the moment. Obviously, I was doing a bit of Warzone at the time when that came out, just kind of chilling, playing with mates. A bit of Overwatch 2. New World, obviously, still the main game, but there's definitely I'm running around New World playing something, and it's what do I run into another OPR? I think end game gearing in New World is
It's
something
weird.
that isn't. Yeah, there's a whole conversation around gearing in New
Dude,
World.
I'm
That's
down
quite
for it
good,
because personally, I find it odd, at least from my side, because I've been playing World of Warcraft my
yeah,
whole life. World of Warcraft and RuneScape, where you have these these pieces that you can obtain due to hard work or due to maybe some slight RNG, like in World of Warcraft, some slight RNG of like getting a drop. I get that. But sometimes with the New World, and maybe it's because I'm bad, I don't know. But sometimes with New World, it feels like, dude, you gotta pray to RNGesus. I mean, also I'll never forget that awesome axe you crafted. That was
yeah.
straight insane.
Worth 50K now, but back then it
Hey,
was cool.
hey, look, dude, we don't forget. Like that was
Most
Bissy
expensive
Biss.
item ever.
Yeah, that literally was Bissy Biss. But yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, it's like you gotta really get that RNG, dude.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a fan of RNG in general. I'm a
Mhm.
fan of grinding. I like grinding, even though I don't love PvE. I do like grinding. I like grinding for the gear. The problem I think I have with the gearing system is kind of the steps between, obviously one perker is relevant. So two perkers is kind of the baseline that everyone's running on, right?
Mhm.
So you got your two perkers, you guarantee them golden scarabs now. it's the step from like your 2 perker to your 3 perker for so many things is such like a mountain that you got your resilient Gravwell chest.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going for resilient Gravwell sharing fortification chest.
Yeah.
Good luck, bud. Good luck, bud.
Yeah.
There's no like mid, and that's the problem I find with like I named items that come out because they can't give us Biss anymore. They can't give us a Gravwell shirking Resil in the next dungeon because that you just got the pinnacle. But then they can't really give something that to entice. There's no mid. If you give me a Resil Gravwell piece, that's not enticing.
Yeah.
There's no. I don't know. There feels like there's just such a massive gap in the progression system towards your Biss set,
Yeah.
where there's like that pre-Biss that kind of makes it feel like so irrelevant. Like people aren't grinding to get that shirking fortification Resil piece. Like the way you grind it, what are you gonna craft it? Are you gonna try and make 800k? I don't know. So yeah,
I
think
feel you, man. Yeah, because it's like the price of these things are just astronomical. Like as somebody who is all, I mean, like I'm not even gonna front. I have a lot of 2 perkers, man, and it's because of that reason. Like I don't, because I'm not owning territory and I'm not trying to lead companies anymore for that, like, owning wins where it ever fall and raking in the dough to roll pieces and get lucky, or hold the market to hostage. It's like, what does a solo person do to get this Biss? I agree. It is kind of harder. It is kind of, it puts you in a weird situation, and it doesn't feel good to grind for too, though. That's one thing that I at least in my opinion, like in World of Warcraft, I do a raid every Saturday, and every Saturday I'm hoping that this weapon drops, and boy, if it drops, dude, I might have to roll on it against somebody else, but there's a chance that I get it, and there's a real chance that I get it. Sometimes with New World, I'm like, okay, I want to strive for some better gear. What do I do? Do I gold farm? Do I just waste all of money I have to try and craft a piece that gets me Biss? Or do I do, you know what I mean? It's like, how do I get that money back? It's like it's just this weird cycle of like, what am I supposed to do? At least that's from my perspective.
No, yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. I think there's no path to these things. It's like make your money or gamba, but realistically, you don't gamba this stuff. If you want to get it, you make the money and just buy off someone, because the chance of gambling it, even with golden scarabs, is so low with the prices. If Sherman fortification wasn't expensive, maybe you get it fast, but with the prices the way they are, you aren't getting that fast. And yeah, I don't know. I just look at it and I think, maybe it's time for full loot PvP Island. Sort my gear troubles out.
Dude, I'm here for it, bro. Yeah, it is definitely interesting for sure. And I don't know. Hopefully there can be some changes in the future. I do want to hear a question though, about bar pushing. I know we talked about it earlier, but have you ever met somebody who likes bar pushing?
You're done. You're done. It's not even a question anymore. Let's be honest.
I know the devs are looking at it, but like, I want to ask everybody I get on here, because people ask me in the stream all the time, like, if there was one thing you could change about PvP, what would it be? And the first thing I would change is push the way you get a war. God, we are going over a year on just running faction missions. It's like, dude, I'm running out of Netflix shows, like there's only so much Hulu I can watch. Like it is crazy. I don't know.
I'm over here trying to stream it and make content, man. I'm running. Hey guys, is someone gonna be behind this chest? Oh no, it's a musket on the other mountain. Wow, and I'm dead. Unlucky. I guess we're running again.
All right, yeah, like PlojOW out here trying to create the best content. Like, all right, man, we're getting faction. All right, guys, chat. We're getting faction missions. We're running to the war camp. And we're running back for the next 3 hours. I need everybody to get
Watch me stabilize the zone. Watch me stabilize the zone.
Yeah.
Look at that number going down. Holy!
I turned in 3 faction missions. It didn't even go up 1%. Let's fucking go. No, I feel you, dude. It's definitely rough. It's funny, as a content creator, I can't help but agree. I feel like everything in general if you have a piece of content, or if you have a system in your game, the first thing I'm asking myself is this system fun? If you're going to make people do this system, is this system fun? If the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, then maybe readjust it. And I know they're working on that. Again, I'm not trying to grill the devs, but we look, as players who have been here over a year playing this game, I'm assuming nonstop. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm pushing like 2.5k hours, and that's not even counting the amount of times I've streamed and shoutcasted wars. It's like it's like, man, this is rough. This is objectively rough, and it's hard to it's even hard to get my company to push bars. Like, I remember having to pay my company. I'm like, guys, I'll pay you to push a damn territory. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if Bonsai ever had that situation where it's like you had to incentivize your bar pushers. Like,
I mean, it's when it came down to pushing, I mean, we thankfully had money to incentivize it.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bonsai always on top, so I mean,
it's like, I don't know. I'm happy they're working on it. It's been such a long discussion. At this point, I don't understand. Whilst they know it's a problem, just like 5x the speed, man. Just like keep the system whilst you're developing another one, and just make it like even twice as fast. Just twice as fast. Like,
I agree.
There's not one person in this game that will complain if they say, "Oh, your pushing gives you double influence now."
Yeah, I think this. Yeah, I think this system was made in the idea that like every server was going to be maxed, and everybody in that server wants to be pushing every territory when it spawns.
And like counter push is a thing. I think they were imagining that people would protect territories, and
the biggest thing you get from a counter push nowadays is like people coming out for 20 minutes to have some fun open world, 20 to 30 minutes, and then it's like bye-bye, and you might have a couple stragglers that are just kind of like, I got nothing better to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, a counter push is, how to stop myself having the one piece of fun content in the game, so why would I do it?
Yeah.
It's like, I see someone counter pushing, I was like,
yay,
so you
war.
don't want a war? And they're like, well, we're here for a war. Why would we counter push? Like, we're waiting for this war, man. It's like,
yeah, I don't want to stop these guys. I'm ready to meet these guys in battle. Fucking let them. Yeah, there needs to be some incentivization for sure. But yeah, I mean, Ploj, I know we've been chatting for a while. I don't want to hold you up too much longer, so I'll let the community soak it in for a second. But guys, I'm gonna have some community questions here. I'll pick out a couple. If you're in the chat right now, hit me with some community questions for Ploj. We'll let them trickle in for a second. So we'll see what they got to say, if they got any questions for you. Now, I know that Ploj, you obviously stream all the time. They probably ask you in your chat and stuff like that. So, but either way, we'll see if they got any, and we'll hit you with it. But yeah,
always interested.
But yeah, no, it's been awesome, man. I do think that you being, I know a lot of people say like I'm a pillar in the community. I think you are one as well. I mean, dude, I've been sending raids your way from as long as I can, dude. I really like I really like your content. I think you're an awesome dude. Somebody asked, oh my God, of course it's Shinj. I can't, Shinj is such a troll. Why he throwing Warzone games, bro? No, I'm kidding. Let's check Suki out. What is your honest opinion on Weaver's Fin being the best region on God? Oh my God. Actually, that does make me think, Ploj, what is your favorite region? That actually makes me think of my own question.
Everfall.
Everfall, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I spent all my time. It was always kind of the thing I strive for. The thing we held. I don't know. There's something for Everfall. It was where I started the game. I started with Everfall Beach.
Oh, you started in Everfall.
Yeah, before they removed the ability to start on Everfall, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's
there
awesome.
You go.
All right, how many assassin groups should a roster have? A 2+ Musket Squad, or is that too much?
It's too much if you're pushing a fort.
All right, and what's your ideal assassin group? IGBB, bow, 2 melee, and a healer?
These days, hit me up with 2 bows, 2 great swords, and a healer.
All right. And a lot of NA say freedom is garbage. Why on EU it seemed to be a thing for every bruiser?
Freedom is a max bis. Sindra will get mad at you in chat if you say otherwise. Freedom is very much all across the board in EU considered as your full best.
Really? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm starting to try and get freedom on some of my gear personally too. I actually think freedom is very important, especially when you're talking about a meta where people can't get through the fort because of ice walls. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I
Like,
mean, I
and
tell you what. After our discussion earlier, you're doing a good thing. You're looking at what EU's doing, and you're doing the same thing before the rest of NA does. This is exactly what we
oh,
talked about earlier.
oh shit. Hey, look, Plush, the real reason that you are here is so I can start peddling good information to my audience. I have to figure out how to get these guys better. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh God, they're gonna eat me alive for that. No, I'm kidding. But yeah. Also, one other question here: do you think there's
Yeah.
any other meta than Bruiser meta? Like, do you think any others can be done?
Then Bruiser meta, sadly not. I think you could shift a meta a lot from where it is now across the board, but the Bruisers are the one thing that will stick around as a core.
Yeah.
The Great Axe is just too impactful, and so is the Hammer. It's just, I think actually, I was saying this. I think Hammer is the most underrated weapon in this game.
Ooh,
I
I
think
actually agree with
people
that.
overlook it. I think you see a Bruiser, you think grabs, you think Great Axe. I believe the Hammer is the thing which really pulls everything together, and people kind of they see it the secondary. It actually makes a war kind of run as it does.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. I think it does a lot. It brings a lot of utility, a lot of stuns. I mean, dude, Shockwave is like insane. Path is insane. Like all these, just the abilities are great. But it's awesome to hear that from you. And yeah, so just went into with little community questions coming in here. But Ploj, look, it's gonna be getting to be about that time to get on out of here. But I want to give the mic to you, man. Is there anything you want to let the people know? I know you said something about a tourney tomorrow. Maybe some shout outs.
Yeah, I think we've got tomorrow we got a 1.1 mil coin on the line, 3v3 20. So yeah, I'll be streaming that at 5 p.m. server time, so that's like Central European time. But yeah, apart from that, I stream every day. Shout out in the chat to we got a few of the guys here. We got Singe, I saw Mika, I saw Tank. We got a few of the Bonsai boys, or yeah, ex Bonsai boys now in chat. So big love to you, and of course all of NA and yourself, Wiilly. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, of course,
You're
man.
an absolute pleasure to watch, especially in the evenings. I love to send my guys over to you. Yeah, I love what you do. I was commentating on dueling tourneys way back when. I saw you were doing the same for Wars. I remember the first time someone came in my chat was like, "You should commentate on War." I didn't know you, and then I did it, and then he was like, "Yeah, Wiilly was doing this," and I was changing stream. I was like, "Oh, this is sick, man!" And I loved it. I loved it. You kind of started what is now something that keeps the community here. So
Hey, thanks,
big shout out
man.
to you.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
for
kind of
having me on.
crazy how it all went together, but I appreciate the love, dude. And yeah, I just want to say also, I'm going to give a shout out to Ploj in the chat as well. Guys, if you guys happen to be watching him live, look at the top of the chat, man. Hit that follow. He's going to be doing a tourney tomorrow. Should be exciting. Guys, catch him there. He also, obviously, he's streaming out there. So, guys, it's a community here. EU, NA, it doesn't matter. I got love for everybody. I know there's always an NA versus EU conversation, but I do think that it's a community overall, whether we're across oceans or not, it doesn't matter. I think you guys are really cool, and I've only had really a lot of good conversations and stuff from the people that are over there. So Ploj, thank you so much for coming on here tonight.
Of course,
Thank you,
for
and
having me.
guys, get some hands for Ploj coming in, guys. You'll love to see it. Ploj, thank you
I do
so
love
much.
NA. I think you guys are also amazing.
You love to see
you
it.
just love scoreboards a bit too much.
And again, guys, if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like, subscribe, do your thing, support your boy. If you guys want to follow me on YouTube and you guys are not doing that just yet, you want to send this to your friends, things like that, dude, check the link in the chat. So consider sending it around. We'll be on YouTube tomorrow. Thank you guys again. Ploj, hey man, thank you so much for coming on. It was nice chatting with you.